welcome to our filmmaking workshop. I'm going to share my, oh, thanks, Prav, for sending that through. I'm going to share my screen and I'll take you through a workshop I run for students, which is an introduction to video making. And hopefully I'll share all the slides with you as well as the recording afterwards and a couple of documents I want to send you. But the idea is I've tailored it towards the video that we need to put in for the Enactus competition. And I'll talk for about, I'd say, half an hour, 35 minutes, and then we'll talk about questions, jobs to do, that kind of thing, and we'll go from there. So does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, it does.
Perfect. All right, let's get cracking. Okay, so BCU Enactus team video making workshop take 1. So what I want you to think about, and I want you to think about whenever you are making a film, this idea about where could this video take you. In this instance, we know this video is a route to get some funding that can help us develop the concept a bit further and a bit faster. But every video creates an opportunity that's not just for necessarily the opportunity that we're talking about at hand. So it's really worth thinking about it like this young boy is a mixture of fear and excitement. Because as you know from doing the filmmaking workshop, doing the film for Enactus before, it can be a bit of both.
Yeah, it can be.
It can be. So what are we going to do today? We're just going to cover what do they want to know, talking about developing the concept, turning it into a storyboard, turning it into a script, and then a bit of technical stuff, particularly around filming with an iPhone, that will help you look and sound good. So, excuse the lots of words on here, but I've taken this particularly from the document that you sent me that Enactus provided. So this track of the competition, you'll need to submit a 77-second video of one pre-approved project that's not yet produced long-term outcomes. Tick. I presume we have registered because we have to register.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Early stage competing team, we judge on effort to define a need, pursue entrepreneurial leadership, work towards positive impact, focus on long-term sustainability, and effectively communicate the project. Great. The way the process is uploaded to the Enactus platform for judging by a team of Schroders employees. So that the audience to keep in mind. And the deadline for submission is not a million miles away, but actually we've got some time to do that. So that's great. I'm going to now show you a video. So I do some work with Brunel and I work with their entrepreneurship team, helping early stage startups enter competitions, improve their communication skills. And I did a workshop and these guys produced this video and I'm going to show it to you. It's a nice idea. It's a great film. But aside from the 3D renderings, which are obviously quite complex, look at the way they filmed it. Look at how simple they've made the filming. Look at their use of graphics and so on. And we'll have a little moment afterwards and you can tell me what you think.
Aiming the set to rush water within 25. On average, a single person uses 149 litres of water per day, 12% showering, 13% on laundry. This usage dramatically increases the students who spend an hour and a half in the shower per week. We surveyed students and found that doing laundry can be a difficult task at university. Laundrettes often be overcrowded, too expensive, and full of broken machines.
Which is why we designed the Enactus, an award-winning portable washing machine for students that uses shower water to wash clothes. The device includes a removable water tank, which can be placed like a mat. Once the tank touches the base, the water is filtered and used in the process. Our proprietary water filter can easily be replaced through a subscription service. It clarifies the used shower water, removing all particles and bacteria, thus ensuring the clothes are left clean and fresh. The Aqua-X, which is an innovative design which aerates the detergent and washes the clothes in a third of the time required by a typical washing machine.
Our unit cost will be £31 with a retail price of £65, making this a cheap alternative for students who spend approximately £100 a year on washing machines. £20,000 will help to prototype and test our solution, as well as fund our initial manufacture setup and marketing. We are currently in the process of securing design rights and partnership. If every student in London were to use the Aqua-X, we could save 1.7 billion litres of water a year. That's equal to over 700 Olympic-sized swimming pools. The time to make one.
So, what did you think about that?
It was very creative, the way that they pinpoint like each location, for example. Like they did one inside the washing machine, for example, in the shower, all of that. Like the way they created the film was quite interesting.
But it was very simple. If you think about it, they filmed mainly in a room against a wall. And what that wall created, I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Oh.
Can you turn, is there a way of turning your sound down a little?
I can mute it and then I can mute it.
The aircon.
Is it?
No, I'm getting feedback on my mic. Is that better? Cool, okay. I can't hear you now though. I can't hear you.
I said, was it better for you?
Oh, okay. Listen, I think we'll just try and keep it open because I think what it's doing is your mic is hearing the sound off the screen in the room. So cool. Just think about it and just look at that simplicity. That view gives them plenty of space to bring up graphics and things like that. And when actually put me on mute, I'm just thinking about the recording quality for people. And what you find is that with a 77-second video, you might have quite a lot of information, but being able to deliver that information just verbally is missing a dimension of graphics, which are really easy to do and can bring up lots of information without you having to say it. So just something to think about. Cool. Okay, so let's think about the process of going from idea through to concept, storyboard, and scripting. So any of you have sat in presentations, workshops I've done, or watched student skill store videos, you will be familiar with this model. And this is a really good model for delivering any kind of form of communication, but it works equally well with film as well. So the first thing we're going to talk about is this preparation bit. So this is everything you do before you start recording. Developing your intent. What am I trying to do? Who am I trying to communicate with? And so on. Then starting to think about storyboarding and designing your and thinking about designing the flow of the 77 seconds, because we need to make sure everyone counts. Then into the create, and that's particularly around creating a script. And I'm going to send you some script templates that you can use, which I think you'll find really helpful. The next bit is the recording. Yeah, this is the actual going out and filming and getting the most out of, excuse me, when I say lyrics, music and dance, I mean lyrics, the words you say, the words up on the screen. The dance bit, this is you, your body language, how you look at the camera, how you behave, and the dance and the music, which is about tone and how we speak to people and how we speak to the camera, whether it's assertive, whether it's and, you know, other different kinds of ways. And the last bit is, of course, that bit which I would say is, in filmmaking terms, is a bit around editing. It's about getting that right, perfecting it, but it's also about that learning process. Each film you do is going to become a learning process for you. And the ability to then be able to use it to connect with other people. It might actually be a film that you can use internally at BCU. It might be a film you can send out to other potential stakeholders and so on. So it's a really nice platform, a model to use. On the left-hand side, the numbers, they relate to this idea of, if you've got, I'm going to pick an example because I'm not crap at maths. Let's say 100 hours. I didn't say the word, I said rubbish. Let's say 100 hours. You would use 50 of them in this preparation time. 35% of your time allocate to actually filming. So that might mean doing a number of takes. It might mean refilming it, watching it back and going, no, let's do that bit again, and so on. Filming does take longer than you think it does. Even something could potentially as short as 77 seconds could take you the best part of a day to get it right. And then the editing bit, the perfect bit, actually probably might take you more than, well, you know, 15 hours is plenty of time if you're allowing 100 hours. If it's an hour and a half, if you've got a good editor, then they should be able to, you know, do that quite comfortably. But what you do want is you want to have an editing resource, whether that be iMovie or something like that, that's going to be able to help you really make the most out of the films, the information that you want to share, and so on. One thing to remember whenever you make a film, every idea you've got is unique. Every market you're talking about is unique, and therefore each of you are unique. Each Enactus idea is unique, and therefore I wouldn't be worried about following a certain format and so on. I think you have the opportunity to let yourselves be really unique in this process. And lastly, don't worry. The whole purpose of Enactus is for you to learn. It's for you to develop your skills. And the one thing I would say is try new things. Use this as an opportunity to try new skills, get yourselves out of your comfort zones. And I tell you why, because if this doesn't go well and we don't get the funding, no one's going to lose their job. No one's going to lose the roof over their heads. It's that kind of safe environment for you to help develop your skills, learn new things, and try new things, and just enjoy that process. So that's going to be a key part, even though we have a little bit of time pressure. What I want you guys to do is really enjoy making these films, because if you enjoy making these films, the viewer will see that and be rewarded for it. So, stuff you should think about including. So, title. I'm amazed how often I see a film where people forget to actually put the title of the idea, either the name of the idea, the name of their company, and so on. So it might be something we need to reflect on. What are we calling this? Is it better decision making at this stage? Or have you developed a new name that we can think about using, and so on? Let's think about what this problem or unmet need is that the idea addresses. What does this, who is experiencing this problem or need? And I think we've already done some work around both of those things. Talking about the product or service, in this case, what is it? What does it look like? And then how will we know or measure the positive impact of this? And this is going to be quite challenging for us, I guess, just in terms of, are we looking at it from the point of view of our measurement is going to be the number of people that listen to the podcast? Or is it going to be, or we can do some research around it? So just having those things in mind we might need to think about reflecting on. It might be a sentence in the film, but we need to. They've asked for that as a particular area for us to look at. How do we sustain the business over the long term? And I think we've already started talking about creating content that can last. You've already had some ideas around making it relevant to young people's problems, so they bring those problems to the podcasting team and then they can work their way through them. But I think we should mention that. Then this last bit, how does this demonstrate entrepreneurial leadership? I'd like to have a chat with us a bit more about that a bit later on, but that was for me, that was just something, how do we demonstrate it? Or is the overall effect of the film going to demonstrate that entrepreneurial leadership? Just something to think about. So anyone who has taken part in my presentation skills workshops always knows there's a profile document that needs to be completed. And what does this look like? Well, this is, and I've simplified this over the years, this is basically 9 questions. And I'm going to send you a Word document that I think someone needs to complete and spend a bit of time completing this. And it goes into various sections. What's in the brief? So there'll be things like 77 seconds, it needs to cover this, da, 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 da. Why am I making this film? And I think it's quite important that we think about why we're making it. Is it just to get funding? Or is this something bigger than that? Is this to start to help articulate our thinking, your thinking, our thinking around this idea? Is it then going to be something that we might be able to use for other things? I don't know, just things to write down at the first draft stage and for us to think about. Who's this video for and what do I know about them? Schroders employees. So it might be worth, if you have got any information on them, great. If not, just finding out a bit more about what Schroders do, getting a bit of an understanding, maybe even having a look at some of their job ads, the kind of people they're looking to hire. Have they got some values that particularly they like to reflect on that we might think about including in our film? So really think about who that audience is. Even though we haven't got specific names, there's probably some things we can find out about them generally as a type of people that would be interested in. And it might even be worth having a chat with, who was the guy from Enterprise? Marcus, lovely chap. Just again, having a chat, maybe someone picking up the phone to Marcus and going, you know what, we're doing these films. Presumably Schroders will have similar kinds of people who are going to be signing up to stuff like that. And maybe it might be worth having a chat with him about just getting a bit more of an understanding about the audience profile and what kind of things they're going to be interested in finding out about. Secondary audiences, we've talked about, I think it's maybe useful, it might be a great film that you can use to get more people in the university engaged with the project, so that whether that be on a staff level, whether that be on a student level, things like that, it might be something that we can use to galvanize the existing team and so on. So always worth thinking whenever you're producing a piece of communication, what that secondary audience might be and thinking about them when you're developing stuff. What am I trying to achieve? Are we trying to educate, persuade, or influence our audience? And I guess in this instance, we might be doing a mixture of all 3, actually. But again, just maybe thinking about, and hopefully at the end of this workshop, you might be able to fill that in with a bit more detail. 3 key messages. In any form of communication, no more than 3 key messages. And because you're working on the basis that what you want them to do is remember at least 1 key message. If we're really lucky, 2. If we're really, really lucky, then 3. Because then they'll remember your film when it comes to voting and deciding who the winners are. So really worth thinking about and then articulating what those messages are. Because if you write them down, and we make sure then when we're writing the script and filming that those key messages are front and center, you will end up with a better film, I promise you. What does the audience currently know or think about this subject? I mean, decision making is quite an interesting one. Everyone has a bit of a view on it. But it might be, you know, what we're not trying to do. We're not trying to perhaps educate them about decision making, but what we might need to think about doing is educating them in the same way that you educated me about podcasting, about why you've chosen podcasting as a route. And it might be we can pull up some statistics that we can put up on screen that talks about the number of young people that are engaging with podcasts at the moment, just so that you can really demonstrate that you understand the medium that we're using for better decision making. Emotional reaction. Are we looking for, you know, it might be sympathy? Are we trying to get them excited? Are we trying to, you know, what kind of emotion are we trying to create with them? Because this might influence the filming styles and so on. It might influence the way, you know, the type of film that you create and so on. And then what do you want the viewer to do next? Yeah, we want them to vote for us. And it might be even we're that explicit and say, you know, a vote for us will help us develop, you know, a bit of funding will help us move to the next level or something along those lines. So someone or a group of you need to really, I'm going to send it as a Word document, spend a bit of time going through this. Happy for you to bounce it off me, see what I think. I'll give you some feedback and so on. But this is probably the step one that needs to be done before we even start thinking about the next stages. But when it is done, we can then start moving forward. And we can start thinking about this design and what we want our film to look like. Is it a factual film? Is it a persuasion film, marketing wise, where you've got a couple of different ideas and you're persuading the audience? Is it storytelling? Maybe we could pick up on one person, for example, who may have challenges around decision making. And we play that, we look at the decision-making idea through their eyes. It's always an idea. The other option, of course, in the far right-hand side is the classic three-part story that a lot of Hollywood and anyone who's watched a Pixar movie will recognize this. Part one, you set up introduce the characters, set up the world that they live in. Part two, something terrible happens, drama ensues and problems arise. Part three, our hero comes through to the rescue, fights off all the baddies and wins the day. It's a very simple structure, but it's a very effective structure. And you could do that in 77 seconds if you wanted. The reason I've done it on post-it notes, because when you get to this stage, it is a brilliant idea to write all of your key messages, any ideas out, and start putting them together using post-it notes against a wall and just stick them up. You can move them around easily. It's a really nice way of brainstorming a storyboard until you're happy with the flow and how it looks. Some other ideas for you. You could do a TikTok video, you could record a Zoom. If we had lots of time and someone was inclined, you could do an animation. We could film a podcast. You know, we could be running, you could mock up a podcast in a studio, film that, and then talk about it, have it in that setting. You could do it documentary style, TED style, as seen on TV. There's a million ideas around. And what I'm trying to do is just spark something. There may be something in here that you go, aha, this makes sense for us. So just think about those things, have those things percolating in the back of your mind as we're starting to think about the style of video we put together. Storytelling. When I send this to you, you can click on that link and it takes you through to a really nice article written by the people behind TED Talks about some of the storytelling techniques that their most inspiring TED presenters use. Really interesting for those of you who might be interested. I think it's quite fascinating, and I've referred to it on a number of occasions. And don't forget, if we have some magic dust, what might that be? Is there one thing that through this process that we go, no one else can talk about this, no one else can have this magic dust that we can sprinkle on our film? It might be a personality, it might be, who knows? I don't know what it might be at this stage, but maybe there might be a bit of magic dust that really helps us stand out from any other film. Right, when it comes to creation, there are 3 magic numbers: 15, 2, and 3. Now, normally, if we were in a workshop now, I'd be going, what do you think they stand for? But understanding mic on, mic off, mic on, mic off, and we might want to share this film with other people, maybe I'll just tell you more about it. So let me tell you more about those numbers. 15 is the first 15 seconds. If it's not interesting, if you don't grab the audience with a hook, 20% will turn off. That's 20% of votes that will either stop watching or stop, you know, when the ads are on in the background and they're on, but you don't notice them, they'll zone out. So what is that hook that we get into them that they go, oh, I'm going to listen to this one? 2 is the 2 words per second. Okay, this is where you struggled, I think, with your film, in that you tried to put too many words into it. 2 words per second is a really good speed at which to talk at on film. Any faster and your audience doesn't understand what you're saying. Any slower, then they might get a bit bored. So thinking about it, for a 77-second video, that's a mouthful, isn't it? That's only 154 words. That's not many words. It's probably not that many more than that are on that page. Actually, it's probably about double of what's on that page. So we've got to make sure that every single word counts. Keep it simple, despite what I've been saying about creative content and stuff like that. And don't try and cram too much in. And 3 is the 3 dimensions you've got. You've got what's being said, you've got what's on the screen, and you've got the graphics that you can put up at the same time. You can actually communicate much more than you think by using all of those 3. So whenever you're thinking about, oh, we really need to get that data in, okay, can it go up on the screen either side or to one side of the person talking? Because anyone watching will be able to understand what someone is saying. Plus, as you saw from the video earlier of lava, you could also see the information that there's being communicated as well. So as you're thinking about these things, keep checking against the video profile document for clarity. Here's another magic number, 35,000. Has anyone, and I will come off camera now, got on screen, any idea what 35,000 means?
Does it, I'm just thinking what exactly it could mean for film. Could it mean, I don't know, I'm not too sure. What do you guys think?
It's a number.
It's definitely a number, but if we're looking at what we would be.
I tell you what, I'm being a bit naughty here, and let me show you why. So if I go back here, 35,000 actually relates much more around decision making. According to the stats, we make 35,000 decisions every day. Obviously, some of them are tiny decisions, turn left, turn right. Some of them are bigger decisions. Have I finished my essay? Do I finish my essay? I'll go out with my friends. You know, all those kind of things. But I just wanted to just plant a little idea in with us, in with you guys. And just something I just went away and started looking at and found that that's quite an incredible number. And maybe it might be something that we think about as a hook. I don't know, just thought. Script. I will send you a script and a script sample, because this is a very good way of, if you write a proper script like this, it will help you film it. It will also help you really articulate your ideas and so on. I started life in advertising agencies, and this is what we used when we were writing ads. This is what people use these days. When I make my films, I produce a script, okay? On the left-hand side, and what I'll do is I'll send you one that's got sample on the front and then a blank one so that you can start writing it out. Left-hand side is what the person is looking at. And on the right hand side is what the actor or whoever, the voiceover, is saying. So you can, it enables you to measure on the right hand side the number of words you're using, and on the left hand side it gives you a sense of what the viewer will be seeing. Really worth using. You'll get a better film from it. So I'll send that over with you. So, bit of technical stuff to help you look good. And this is all on one page, but I have got, and I'll dig it out and send it over as well, top tips for filming on an iPhone. I'll send that over. I've got it in an A4 so you can print it off and use it. Tripod is helpful. It helps keep the camera steady, but not essential. Most of the cameras in these days have got pretty good anti-jiggle memories in them. Always shoot landscape, not portrait. You guys did that with the last one, so well done. If you're doing an interview, it is easier to shoot an off-camera interview rather than straight into the lens. Now, if I'm talking into the lens, I'm looking at you like this. An off-camera interview, basically, I'm talking to someone like this, and it's a very common form of doing films. You'll see them a lot on television, so don't necessarily get too fixated. You could do an off-camera interview if necessary, you know, and what you don't do is you then get the person. So if they're talking about asking a question, because what you won't hear is you won't hear the person asking the question. So what they'll do is you say, right, the question is, how did you come up with this idea? The answer would start with, I came up with this idea by when I was out shopping with my mum, for example. So it's a really nice way. You could have used it in your original film, and it would have then avoided that thing about reading, because you can actually just then read the script off to the side. It does work quite well. Never ever use digital zoom. It looks terrible, looks grainy. Shoot some B-roll. You might want to think about, I'm not sure whether in 77 seconds you might want to do that, but you know what might be quite fun is you have someone filming the making of the film. Might be quite fun. It helps. You might be able to use it for other things and so on. As you know, don't be too far away from the mic because it won't pick up sound. If you have got any budget and it wasn't all spent on pizza, maybe think about investing in a Bluetooth mic that then someone can hold and use. If we're doing any filming outdoors, it's about 20 quid or so. It's not necessary, because I'm not sure whether we will be filming outdoors, but who knows, we might be. But the one thing you want to make sure is that someone can hear what you're saying. Lighting, that was one criticism I had from your film. I thought you shot it very well, but it wasn't always well lit. And if you've got always a couple of lighting sources pointing at you, You can use a table lamp, you can use any, thing, you could use natural light. So if you've got a window, make sure you're either got the window in front of you or to the side. Never have it behind you, because as you can see, sometimes it just turns you into a silhouette. Make sure you allow the camera to run for 2 seconds before the action and then 2 seconds afterwards. What that gives you is it gives you editing points that you can drop footage into. You don't have to shoot the whole film in one take, although you might choose to. I doubt that we will. But, just make sure when you do, as soon as you film stuff, back it up, whether it is up to the cloud or whether it is saved to your laptop and then backed up to the cloud. But make sure, watch it back, just make sure you've got it all and the sound quality is good as well. And just a few little pro tips for me. Rule of thirds, watch lots of films. They have this thing called a rule of thirds, which is where what they tend to do, professional camera people, a lot of the time, is they will put the subject not bang in the middle. They'll put them where one of the lines intersect. Somehow it just looks good. You can see here. It just visually looks quite nice. So when you set up, don't always necessarily have the person bang in the middle. It can look much better if they're off to one side. And again, watch things like the news, watch documentaries and see how they use that rule of thirds. And what you can do is there's a setting on the iPhone to put up grid lines, and then you can see those grid lines when you're filming, but you don't necessarily see that. You won't then see them when you're using the film. Roadmap to success. Quick. Plan the schedule out now. Write your video profile document. Send it to me if you like. Start thinking about your storyboard and writing your script. Find someone to check that video profile document and the script that is independent of the team that are working on it, just because it's a good sense check. Practice filming, shoot the real thing, edit it. Then if you want me to have a look at it, I'm more than happy to do so. Push, up to Enactus site, all done, funding won, Oscars next stop, here we go. And you never know where this might take you. This actually, the guy behind the camera, I think is Steven Spielberg. No, I think Steven Spielberg's just behind him. But on the back of this was the original Jaws. It stopped me going swimming in the sea for a long time because I watched it when I was about 12. Scared the living daylights out of me. But look at the career he's had when it comes to filming. And this could be the start of something beautiful for you guys too. So there we go. I am brilliant. Shall I stop recording now?
Yeah.
In fact, if I stop recording, what happens is